Well, hello there. Fancy meeting you at this lovely place. I'm so glad you made it. And guess who has joined me today? It's very exciting. We have the lovely cat. Hello. And you may remember him. He shows up like every time. It's Tom. I know. It's a surprise. Hello. I'm so glad you wandered in.
I know. I made it.
Yay. And then guess who showed up? We're all enthralled. It's Charlie. Yay, 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 yay. Hello.
And me being the big idiot that I am, I'm like waving at everybody as they're coming on screen. I'm like, hi. Hi. Wait.
Nobody can see me during the countdown, and I'm still like,
I know,
I'm
right?
still dancing. And it's like, I'm not dancing for anyone but myself.
And then when the countdown I use on my stream is the ukulele song, so nobody can see it, but I go the whole time.
Like we're all just having a good time. It's a party.
It's a party.
Whether anyone could see us jam down or not, it's just who we are.
I don't know. YouTube made the mistake today when I went to my creator dashboard saying, "Do you have a moment to tell us how you feel about being a creator on YouTube?" Oh yes, I do. I do.
Oh dear, how did that go?
Opinions for you.
Oh, I have opinions.
I wonder if that'll appear on mine. They might not like.
Aired many a grievance. Just saying. So,
I mean, is it Festivus already?
for YouTube, it is.
Apparently so.
Well, what was that I saw recently? If you say no and they keep doing it, it's called abuse. With a picture of, would you like YouTube Premium?
Oh, they do ask fairly often, don't they?
I have to say, it's one of the few streaming services that I will like fight over because I watch too much YouTube. My life is too precious to me to sit through one more ad. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. Like, we can get rid of the HBO. We can get rid of the Netflix. I don't care. I spend most of my time on YouTube.
Same. I don't want to admit just how much time I do spend on here.
I open up the YouTube app on my Roku in the morning, and then that's me until like it's at least dinner time. And half the time I'm still showing it to Tom, like, here, let me make a queue of the best of what I've watched today. And then I rewatch it with Tom. Yeah. Like I honestly, I mean, like, we pay for Hulu, we pay for Netflix, but the truth is Amazon, yeah. And the truth is, I spend more time on YouTube than any of the other apps because YouTube actually has a lot of content that I enjoy because this is what I want to watch. Yes, I would like to watch about, your off the grid lifestyle in the Arctic Circle. They're so calming, and also show me lots of videos of you like petting your dog and your dog eating snow. I want to watch this.
See, this is where they messed up. I don't feel that same way when I see ads on Twitch, because I know that the person showing me the ads on Twitch is getting something from that. I know that a lot of the people that I watch on YouTube are under 1,000 subs.
Right.
Yeah.
And are getting nothing.
Well, it looks like we actually have a couple people who made it at the 3 o'clock today. We are starting with an audience.
Yeah, we've got hello Maggie. Maggie is here. And there's Tom doing double duty, because I just like to say it.
Duty.
Maggie would like to know, how is the weather? Would you like some cold wind and snow? I wish you could send it to me, sweetheart. You just
yes, I'll take it.
It's so warm here. And there's Megan is here. Hello, sweetie. And let's see. Oh, and CB is here. Hello. And we'll be right back. And of course, there's Kat doing double duty as well. I just like
that duty.
Yeah, Tom looks like a disembodied head. The vibe is real, y'all.
Oh, I so want to like dress Tom up like Holly from Red Dwarf. Ooh. And just have Tom be our Holly sitting in the corner.
Yes.
Just get a black blanket and poke his head through it.
I think, like, given Red Dwarf's budget, we may be able to make.
That's what I'm saying, because I'm pretty sure that's what they did. Is just take a black.
Yeah, like we've got some fabric. We can just, staple some fabric to inside of a box. Yes, I feel this. Yeah. Maybe we may have that right for the second season of getting excited about movies, y'all.
That was better than what I was thinking of, which was my first thought, talking about, headless people floating around. My first thought is, what was it, Jamba? From Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
With a blue face.
Originally played by Phil Hartman.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The late great Phil Hartman was the original. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mind goes to 790, but I'm one of those pervs who loved Lex. And Phil loves Lex. So
I was right. I was there with Lex till they went to Earth, and then that was, what can I say? My comfort level wasn't quite that comfortable.
Oh, come on. When she gets the job in the slaughterhouse,
It's more of the enemy being carrots. That's where they lost me. I just too often. No. Dangerous mind controlling carrots.
Oh, okay.
Where are we?
I'm about to hand over the show to Tom because this is Tom's pitch. However, before that, I didn't want to forget to bring up, number one, I made over 100 subscribers, y'all, and I have a vanity URL now. Yay! Thank you so much. So I forgot to mention it last week because Hot Mess Express, yes. So, but since this is the last episode of the first season of Getting Excited About Movies, I definitely want to be absolutely certain to say, hey, I made it and thank you because it's all of y'all and not me. So, and then I was able to actually, after 2 weeks, change the URL to Vanity URL because, that was the whole goal. Let's see, what else, Tom? It was the...
So we're now at youtube.com/Glory Writes the Blues.
Yes.
/C/Glory Writes the Blues because we're
actually channel. You don't have to put the C in.
Oh, really?
It just puts that in as to differentiate between channel and user.
Wow.
But when you give it out,
fix that in my links.
Yeah, when you don't have to, you don't have to have that. Double check and make sure that that's true for yours because I've got a weird grandfathered one. For my channel, but I can just do youtube.com/ and then the name, and it works. So hopefully that's true for you too.
Yeah. So let's see. Yes, there's lots of woohoo. Everybody is celebrating. Thank you so much. Mwah. You are all amazing, and I could not have done it without y'all. So I just wanted to get that over with since obviously I forgot last week. Let's see. There was 3 things, and I can only remember 2 because you know why? I only have 2 hands. That's the problem. That's why I need a 3rd hand so I can actually remember 3 things. It's a known thing about human psychology.
I believe you also wanted to mention that I'll be talking a lot and the whole autistic stereotypes.
Oh well, I don't know that was the 3rd one, but I'll go ahead and say so. Okay, a lot of the time. I get feedback, and in real life too, about how Tom is sort of the stereotypical autistic male in that he seems so quiet and reserved, and I'm super talkative, so you can't possibly be autistic. And y'all about to actually see what I've been dealing with my whole life is when it's just me and Tom. I never get a word in edgewise, okay? And that's nice. I like it. And mostly, honestly, what he just chatters on about is headcanon. This is one of his major wheelhouses, which I guess is why I never really got into headcanon too much, because every other member of my family seriously does headcanon all the damn time. And so I was just happy to sort of riff on them. So this is Tom's show today, because this was his pitch. And he has a long list of things he wants to talk about. So I'm mostly going to just hand it over, and then he's going to tell me what to click on if I'm supposed to make something pop up on the screen, honestly. But the other thing I just wanted to say, as another thank you to everybody who's been coming both on screen and in the chat for all 14 episodes of this first season. So there's been something that I, as a writer, have been working on in myself and been very frustrated about because my skill hasn't been leveling up. And that is, I think it's called narrative form or story form. And it's really like, it's important in short stories of like I call it framing, how you frame the story. So is it like as a letter, like epistolary story, or like a short story I wrote for Orla's anthology that the video will be coming out on Saturday. I think it is, right, Charlie? Maybe? Is it Saturday? The short story I wrote.
It's hard to tell what the time zones.
I think it's 9 a.m. Eastern, if I read it correctly. I was going to ask. But like the short story I wrote for that, for instance, is sort of, I wrote it as a Facebook post. And for the longest time, I have struggled with how to tell these stories, like how to figure out the framing that's appropriate. And I honestly feel like I have, if anything, in the last few weeks, leveled up in my skill level. And I really credit it to this first season of 14 episodes talking about storytelling every week for a couple hours with y'all has really helped me improve in this area that I have been trying to improve in for 12 years. So thank you so much. I owe you all. If you haven't already given me your mailing address, let me know and I will mail you something crocheted. There are some people who are going to have to wait till I can like custom crochet them something because what they wanted I don't have, but I will be making for them. So I just am so grateful. Like y'all do not know how much this, not having the skill of how to figure out how to, you know, what kind of form the story or the narrative takes has really made me feel inadequate as a writer. And so finally like leveling up a bit in that has like changed my entire perspective on my own writing. So get ready 2021. Y'all about to get a whole bunch of free short stories. I hope you like short stories. Also, if anybody would like to help me beta test my short story for Orla's, I will send you the Google Doc link and you're welcome to put any comments you want in. I need to have it done by Wednesday night. Sorry for the short notice.
I will say, though, this is one of the things that's really changed the way people do headcanon now, because so many stories now are all about the meta. Like the meta stuff that comes out with the story is almost as important or gives a weird glimpse into the story. So like as much as Ridley Scott has messed up his own franchise with the Alien movies, putting out all of those, you know, Weyland-Yutani infomercials, basically, along with it, those are outside of the movie. There are things hidden in the trailers. There are things hidden here, there, and yonder. We've been seeing this for such a long time. The first time I remember seeing that is back with David Lynch's Twin Peaks, where they would hide clues in the coming up next time that wouldn't be in the next episode, but they expected you to have seen the next time on and factor that information in. And so we've gotten to this place where it's so much about just the meta, the way the story is delivered, that it's really changing the way we tell all of our stories.
I love that value added, like as you said, like the commercials and yeah, Twin Peaks would add it to next time, and then it would never show up, and people like, did we miss it? And people like, I remember in the 90s would blame the local TV station for cutting out. They must have cut out that scene or shortened the end of it, or it would. This is where I thought it should have been, and they probably just wanted another commercial, you know, that sort of. But it got people talking.
Because there's a whole headcanon going around Star Wars fandom right now based on a single image for a show no one's seen. And it's amazing to me. Like, did you see the logo that they did for the new Ahsoka live action series? Doesn't that look like the World Between Worlds from Star Wars Rebels? So are they saying in that one picture that the entire sequel trilogy didn't happen, that it was in an alternate universe of what would have happened if Ahsoka had actually died at Vader's hands instead of being pulled into the world between worlds so that means that series is just going to be her realizing that she's this linchpin to change the future. And we're going to finally get the sequels that we have actually wanted. This entire storyline where people are going through like old cartoons and the future movies and piecing together the timeline of how this one picture, it's just the logo for a series that hasn't even started filming yet.
So
that leads into now, Tom, here's your show. Best of luck. We love you.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to be a little bit odd because we're going to be discussing a couple different concepts that are similar, but not always the same. So like in this case, this is one where it appears to be headcanon and fan fiction in the making. We now live, though, in the future where this is not always the case, and this is a specific one. This is actually a setup that Lucasfilms has been working on for the last year. Like insiders have already said everything they're going to do to pull this off because of how badly the sequel trilogy was taken, and that they were going to use the Between Worlds thing from Star Wars Rebels to sort of give a reboot and give an excuse for just removing the sequel trilogy. And everyone's like, they would never do that. That's too crazy. And so we actually see them laying groundwork and having people whisper these ideas to have people go, oh, well, this is just a crazy idea. But once you've heard an idea 20, 30 times, it doesn't seem so crazy, and people are more likely to accept it without being upset or offended. I mean, another case we have actually seen this where they use this effect of headcanon people come up with, Gloria and I saw, was with Westworld, where unlike every other show we have ever seen, the first season of Westworld, there were people from the beginning correctly predicting how the show is going to go on the Reddit forums. And the only way they could know this much is that, no, they had people from the show slipping little ideas in so to steer people in the right direction.
And I
don't know. I feel that the show was very predictable. I felt like that. I told Brian how it was going to end.
But I mean, but we saw these in the forums of where they were actually predicting scenes in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did.
Already filmed.
Nolan said that they were actually doing it in order to steer the fandom so they didn't go too far off and then get upset when it didn't pay off.
Versus, what was it? The Good Place is the absolute opposite, where as soon as they think the fandom has figured out where they were going, they would literally in the next 2 episodes finish up all of that storyline and go in a completely different direction because they did not want people to see the end of the seasons coming. And so Gloria and I have so many ideas for The Good Place that didn't come to pass, and we still prefer to kind of hold on to.
Yeah, we still like our headcanon better.
For us, the better storyline that we always thought of is, what if Michael had removed his own memories, or really its own memories, to think it was a demon, but in fact it's an angel, which is why Michael keeps messing up to help people. And that Heaven had figured out how much hell had been just screwed up. So they were trying to subvert the bad place into starting to make people better. And that is why Michael is so different from all the other demons. Michael doesn't behave like anyone else among the demons. Michael's able to gain access to a good
Janet.
A good Janet when no one else has ever been able to do that. And the bad place always talks about doing anything bad, including breaking into places.
Yeah, they do brag about that, and yet they had never been able to. And they kind of make that clear of like, how did you do it? And he's like, I just walked in, and they're like, really? But then we don't hear about later they're razzing the good Janet room, presumably because they didn't get in. So I always thought like, well, Michael is infiltrating the bad place in order to actually figure out what's going on and try to get everything back on track, since the good place is filled with too much bureaucracy and the bad place is filled with a lot of cranky butts. So how are you going to fix this? How do you break this broken system?
Honestly, I felt like the bad place was filled with posers. Like they were people who were acting like they think bad people are supposed to act, but have never actually done anything wrong in their lives. They're like, I don't know, bad people fart and say bad words all the time, so fork you.
I catch myself acting like a bad Janet. I'm like, I swear I'm not. I'm just looking at something on Amazon real quick. I'm listening.
Because they were like 9-year-olds doing like, I'm gonna be bad. That's not what bad is.
Again, the bad place was bad at its own job.
Yeah.
Like none of this was if you really looked at it, correct. And so, our headcanons to explain what we felt would be more logical and believable. But at the same time, we still enjoyed watching the payouts and just how different the storylines would go in The Good Place, because they would quickly follow up, what they were saying would happen, but then they would do so much of a different story you just couldn't have seen coming. No, I don't think anyone saw the second season where, what was it? They do all the reboots in the first episode. Instead of this being the entire second season, like everyone's figuring, it's one episode. But so that's the interesting part of headcanon, where for the longest time it was something we all individually made up, and then we talk with each other and we compare stories, and that was kind of actually what helped us tell. It's how you learn to tell a story, is you take a story and then you change it. I was saying to Gloria of headcanon really is the first way we start telling stories, of every kid. Hold on just one sec. I keep hearing something.
Tom's door was open. I'm pretty sure it was echoing into mine. Tell us more about from the Tales from the Bunker, Tom.
Well, say when we're kids, when we're hearing and our parents start telling us stories of Cinderella and the Seven Dwarfs and Baba Yaga and everything else. As long as we're kids who feel like our parents listen to us, every kid I've ever seen, including myself, will start adding to the story. They'll start adding little elements. They'll bring in their own character for character crossovers from another story.
Oh yeah. Iron Man shows up in a lot of people's childhood stories. And adult stories.
I love a good crossover.
And so that's what's that's why to me headcanon is, the gateway drug to writing. It's how we learn to tell a story. We tell when we already know and we add on to it. Sort of like improv.
Improv is the one thing that should be taught in the schools. Because learning both yes and no but. Those are the two most important things to get you through life. Because life is improv. Fiction is improv. Whether you're doing an outline or anything else. And the fact that we don't teach people how to riff off of each other like this. This is a vital life skill. It's not just how do you do something funny on a stage or how do you write your fan fiction. Because we talked about that a lot the other day in the fan fiction episode, where it teaches you this yes and, or if you don't like the way the story's going, no, but.
Or maybe.
Yeah. It's such a vital skill.
I was definitely very bad at it in my 20s, and Glory really did a lot to help me learn the improv skills. Because really, improv skills is also how you make a good friendship.
Yep.
Instead of always turning stuff down.
I found it really helpful to teach my third graders improv rules, because they were having problems both working with each other in classroom lessons and also on the recess. I actually taught at a school that had recess. I know, it's weird. But they were essentially, even though these kids knew each other outside of school, since most of them lived in the same project housing 2 blocks away, they didn't socialize. They all just stayed in their houses or their apartments all the time. And so they didn't know how to become friends, even though they'd known each other all for like 2 to 3 years by this point. And I found it was really helpful. I just saw a cat. I found it really helpful to teach them improv rules where you don't just immediately knock someone down when they pitch an idea, but you instead go, okay, and let's do this, or okay, but what about this? And then, like everybody just throw out ideas constantly. And they found it to be super fun. They loved it. And it was really very interesting. And so I still have those students write me letters every once in a while to my P.O. box to this day. And that's been more than a decade ago. And that's how much it apparently made a big deal to them, because I guess for the first time they felt heard and they felt like they were appreciated, and not just by me, but also their other classmates. So it made a big deal to their daily experience. To like it was so community building, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And I love that about Headcanon and Fanfic, because it's also community building, but with a time pause. Because between when you write it and when someone reads it could be hours, days, years apart. So, sorry, Kat. We'll help you with your improv. It's going to be great. And it maybe my experience with improv is kind of unusual because, but I was really introduced officially to improv. There was a local improv group at my university. I was already writing for my school newspaper, for the university newspaper. I was writing a sex column. And apparently they would all read the column out loud to each other before every performance. So they were also my unofficial fan club. And so when I showed up one day, because I'm looking for a free show, I'm a student, and they literally all fangirled, fanboyed, fan-personed out. And the show was delayed 20 minutes while they all calmed down before they could start. And I was like, should I walk out, go wait in the hallway so you all feel better? And they're like, if you don't mind. Because there were only 2 other people who came to the show, y'all. So, and I had brought them. It was my now ex and Tom. So I went and waited till I heard voices, and then I came back in, and they were like, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It was adorable, but it was very touching for me. And so that was my positive experience originally with improv. And then from there, it was just super fun. And then I got into Second City and all that. And I had been watching the Second City show when I was a kid. So I had I guess some adjacent experience. But yeah, Headcanon is sort of at least our Headcanon in our family is sort of like that. Is where we actively improv with each other. It's shared storytelling. And I cannot tell you how much fun that is on car rides, even with friends, even frankly with strangers that you're I don't know if I'm happy with this person in the car. But you know what? If you can find a story to mutual storytell together, y'all are going to be friends by the time y'all stop for the next bathroom break. And maybe then you won't be killed by the serial killer that you've inadvertently picked up on the side of the road. Just throwing that out there. It's a life skill. I think it might be useful for everyone.
Any situation.
Yeah, that reminds me of the speaking of finding stories to tell and stuff. You remind me of our little sister, and her 2 favorite stories to kind of mash up into a new story. What was it? The Napping House meets
Goodnight Moon.
Goodnight Moon. So they had to keep adding on more and more people had to nap to be able to reach up to the moon.
She had to learn everybody in the town. So she had to figure out all of the usual groups of people. So the bakery and the fire department and the zoo, all the places usually in a town. So she had to learn all of that to then add them, because it takes a while till you reach the moon. And she wanted the napping house This is all about all these people in the house napping on each other, including down to the cat and the dog and the flea, and so on, and the mouse. So like it ended up with like something, I don't remember how, but the fire department's truck's ladder was how they finally actually reached the moon when they woke up from their nap. I don't really remember this, but it was wild and she loved it. And, by the third time she had kind of memorized the order it has to be to reach the moon. And she was like 4.
The hippos have to start at the bottom. Everyone needs to sleep on the hippos.
And then it's like elephants and I don't know. There was a lot. There was a lot going on. Yeah.
I think you'd put the elephants on the bottom.
Okay. This was a hot debate in our family for literally years.
So here's the part you don't know about. And it's a little sad. But so the elephant our little sister knew at that point was at the local zoo, and it was a retired circus elephant, and it was very skinny. It had
problems. It wasn't eating very well, so and they listed how much approximately they weighed. All the animals on the signs, and the hippos weighed like at least a couple hundred pounds more than the elephant. So to her. So the elephant goes next because the hippos weigh more. She went to the zoo and had us write down how much every animal weighs. And when they didn't list how much the tigers weigh, she made us help her find a zookeeper to how much does your tiger weigh? We need to know for a story. And she's like a little reporter, 4.5 years old, very serious. But, I was the one who had to write this down. And...
like a little baby Yoda.
She was very cute.
I need facts.
And they literally did go look it up. And then when they couldn't find it, they called the veterinarian, who then had to look up the last time the tiger had gone to the vet. And they did a weighing. And so we had a very factual list of how much every large animal weighed at the zoo. At that time.
And part of the really great part of Headcanon is that you get to, especially when you get to tell other people, and essentially you're doing a semi-form of improv because you're seeing people's reactions to your story. And so you figure out which parts people react better to and which parts they don't react as much to. And so you start adapting your headcanon and your storytelling to get more of the positive reactions out of your friends.
Right.
And that's, again, where you see storytellers develop. I mean, we're in Mississippi. There's a reason why we're known for storytelling, because everyone here is a storyteller. It's part of Glory's, problems with writing stories is when everyone's a storyteller, it's hard to feel like your stories are worth telling as much because anyone around here could tell the story. Why would anyone want to read it? It's because you live in a special little place where there's a lot of storytellers. Most places do not have this level of storytelling.
Look, it's just me trying to talk myself out of it. It's not valid. Real quick, Laura has come by. Hello, sweetie. There is some hot discussion going on about is lying the first form of storytelling.
There's a certain payoff if you can do it well. I mean, our little sister was an expert at. She did figure out if I can tell a lie adorable enough, I can still get away, even if it's a bad lie I don't believe, or I wouldn't believe. If I can be cute enough, they'll still let me get away with this. So she would practice her her style of telling a lie. So, I mean,
yeah.
I can see the thinking.
So there's still that feedback about is it believable? Is it an engaging enough story form? Because she tried out every major kind of fibbing story form. As soon as you get home, she's like, I got a story for you. And I'm like, oh, really? She's like, it's important because you're going to wonder why the floor of the kitchen's wet. Okay, you're right.
I'm curious.
Put my bag down and let me go to the bathroom first, and then you can tell me. I will sit down on this couch, and you can tell me all of why I'm about to. And also, is it still getting wetter? Because I need to know now, so I can go immediately to the kitchen and, like, as a pipe buster or something. She's like, "Oh no, it's not getting any wetter. It may get less wet by the time I'm done." Like, oh, okay. She was 7 years younger than me, so she was, almost like, a junior little kid to me, like a junior daughter to me, sort of thing. And so, yeah, that was it. She was essentially workshopping story form in fitting and in improv. And I mean, we had standards. So again, you have to workshop a lot. Go on. Sorry.
I lost track of actually what I was about to say.
Oopsies. Well, let's see. Laura says, my brother blamed the chickens for throwing eggs at him to explain why there were broken eggs around the backyard. We raised a couple chickens, but they did not have thumbs.
You don't need thumbs to throw something at somebody.
Trust me. Can you just roll it to them, or is it going?
Well, considering I've watched a cat throw a ball.
But to give an idea of just how much, yes, I grew up very autistic. And the truths and the incorrect assumptions about it. I loved watching Whose Line Is It Anyway? I have for, years and decades at this point. But the first decade I watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? I was fascinated with, it seems like they're communicating some kind of nonverbal information to each other so that they can work this together. I have no idea what they're doing. It still seems like magic, even though I know logically they're communicating this somewhere. It's not just being pulled out of thin air. But from my experience of it, that first decade, it was like, go on. How are they picking up these details? Like, even when they were playing that game where they have to guess where the
the party thing where you have to guess what each guest is, their prompt is.
Most of the time, I didn't get it till the very last one. Like, even when everyone else is like acting like it was easy, I'm still just like, how did they guess that? It has taken a lot of work to understand and figure this out, and to learn a lot more about it. So now, yes, it would seem like I do not seem on the outside as autistic as, no, I really am. I've just had to learn a lot more of these skills. But yeah, that first decade, Whose Line, it's like I'm just watching a magic show for 30, 40 minutes twice a day, because I think ABC Family had on like an hour of it or two.
Yeah, and they used to have the British one on too.
Yeah. So anyone else have their favorite ones growing up of how they would?
Well, should we try a sprint and then we can come back?
Yeah.
If anybody wants to talk about like their favorite personal headcanons, we could also just enjoy riding that wave.
Do a little bit of storytelling.
Like, Tom made a list, and it's this long of like different headcanons. So look, I don't want anyone to feel like they're on the spot, like they have to have something. Because like I was like, for the last 3 days, I'm like, I can't think of anything. I can't think of any of my headcanon. I know I used to have them, but I can't think of anything now that I feel like I'm about to have to talk about it. And Tom's like, let me make a list. So I just want everyone to know, like, while we'd absolutely love to hear everybody, both on screen and in chats, headcanon ideas, nobody needs to actually, share it if they can't remember anything, because Tom's got this list, y'all. And it starts, the very first one is about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
I don't know that you really want me talking about Doctor Who that much.
I am available and here for all. This channel could just turn into a Whovian channel. I'm here for that, and so Hey, just letting everyone know. Okay. So
let's see who's line live.
What?
Yeah. Megan got to see Whose Line live.
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
She's like, it's great. And I'm just like, that's about what I expect.
It looks like everybody was having a really good time. Okay, so I feel like the spooky timer today. I don't know why, but I'm like, yeah, put the fog on the water, y'all.
Smoke on the water.
All right, are we ready? In 3, 2, 1, sprint! Beep 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 beep. Well, hello. How did everybody do? Or
That was the most boring lecture I've ever listened to in my life.
What was it on?
How the web works.
Oh God.
When do you think that was last updated?
Yeah.
You think it was made before 2012?
No, it's a video that my professor made, like, probably over break.
Oh, wow.
So if you saw my face at all one. That's what it was.
I did notice that face. I was like assuming it wasn't about me. So
No. It was this video. I was watching. So I did get introduced to the map of the internet.
Which one?
With all the dots that make up the websites.
Wait.
And the bigger the dot, the more frequently it's used.
Oh God. Why? I find that history of the internet to be more pertinent to understanding why it's so messed up today than. But that's because I lived through it.
That's because in the early days, the free speech absolutists won the arguments, and so all the hate speech was allowed to survive.
Obviously not choose. Anyway, sorry. Did I say that? I was thinking it. I apologize.
I was hanging moons into the sky above Nalia and setting up a calendar system because what's world building without math?
What is world building without math? Obviously. Not pertinent. I recently watched Soul several times, and there's like these moments where they're like, "Don't you feel the spark? Isn't it so lovely, this thing on Earth that kind of sucks?" And every time this one being is like, no, not interested. No, that's great. No. And I really just reminded me of my father trying to teach me math and like, isn't it so beautiful? Isn't it so lovely? I'm like, no. Just, isn't this amazing? It's like what he was trying to teach me all was algebra, which I'm not an algebra gal. I'm a calculus gal. And he did not like calculus. I love calculus. You know why? Calculus is about money and gambling and percentages and ratios. That's all the things I love. Kitchen chemistry and money, retail tax. This is my jam, y'all. But did he introduce any of that? No. He was like, come on, don't you want to do things in order? And I'm like, I literally have a learning disability that makes A coming or B coming before C, but after A. I've literally had to memorize this, y'all, because my brain does not work this way. And algebra, everything has to be done in order every single time in the exact same order. And you have to memorize it. And I literally have this learning disability. And I'm like, no, I still feel no spark. Go away. No, daddy, no. And he's just like, I just keep teaching it to you. You will get it. And I'm like, no, but I love you anyway, daddy. And we talk about anything else. He's like, okay, how about we talk about how the French don't actually win wars. They just get other people to fight. I'm like, go on, tell me the drama. Those are his two favorite subjects in the world was history and mathematics.
I just have to say, there is an alternate universe out there somewhere in the multiverse where I became my own version of Abe from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Because I did contemplate for a long time just becoming a mathematician, but I know myself, I would have been him. I would have totally, like, thank you for being here. Only one of you actually deserves to be here, and the rest of you should be shot out of a cannon. But
yeah, that's our father. Uh-huh. I can't imagine why his math students did not like him. Why they hated him. He kept everything they ever threw at him. Everything. He had a box, y'all.
You mean versus when they super glued his pants to the chair?
He had every tack they ever threw at him behind his back. Everything. He kept everything like a memento of insanity.
Yes, because you feed off of the anger.
Obviously, yeah. I think, yeah. Apparently, we thought. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, so I see that the chat has had lots of discussion.
Mm-hmm. Eva's here.
That is prone to do.
I know, it's lovely.
And Maggie's showing all of her math skills and all the math skills that are required to understand her calendars in her books.
Yeah, I'm gonna just put a very simple calendar up on the wiki, so people will actually be able to generate the year and month. But the planet has 3 moons, and so it will have the moon phase for every moon.
You are so giving me incentives to never make a alternate world where there's extra moons. I'm I am already just moving on. Too much trouble. Is there a generator I could use?
I am playing around with one that will generate a basic thing, and then it will need tweaking. So,
since we're on the subject, my first thought was, so are you writing a fanfic from the Coneheads?
Oh my goodness, no, but a friend of mine would have. He had a lot of thoughts, whereabouts when it comes to the Coneheads. Yeah. It just took me to a very dark place.
I just want to point out, I absolutely love the idea of Tony Stark getting the hiccups and goes down hard.
Yeah.
Y'all, is there something I should click on? Because I don't know how to operate a mouse. Okay.
I mean, really,
I do want to.
I like the idea of a superhero being taken out by hiccups. I mean, that's just the best weakness.
It's kind of sweet. Yeah, I like it. Tom did post a link. Look, as somebody who loved Fight Club so much, she went and got the book. And then read Survivor just because she liked Fight Club and was like, oh, this is a very different book. Although still enjoyed it. This website, Tom likes to read it to me from time to time, especially with any updates. So if you like Fight Club, I do recommend this website. Oh, and Eva made it. Hello, darling. It's lovely to see you. I'm glad you made it. Yeah, is this it today, Martin Luther King Jr. Day?
It's just my grandma's birthday.
Yeah. See, it's a bunch of days.
And I believe it's the saddest day of the year.
Is that a fact?
Psychology test. Yeah, of third Monday of the year.
Is it sort of like a letdown day? Well...
It's more of when everyone realizes their hopes for the new year not as likely to happen.
I've already crushed them.
And also, is it the, last ditch before, the hardcore cuffing season must commence?
Right? Yes, cuffing season.
You've made it past all the holidays, except the last one. And so, isn't this approximately when people start doing the breakup? Because they're you know what? Thanks for helping me through the holidays, but I am totally not paying for your Valentine's anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes. Does the asexual find this amusing?
Can I just say that's what marriage is for? You just get married and then you don't have to deal with dates or
if you don't want to buy them a Valentine's gift, you definitely should not marry them. I'm just going to go say that. Apparently controversial yet brave here. I'm just no. Do not marry someone because you think it'll get you out of a Valentine's gift line. Terrible reasons. Although
I spent enough time on Are the Straights Okay to understand that that's how heterosexual relationships work.
Oh my God, isn't it so weird? Y'all, straight people be wild. I mean, if there was ever proof that sexuality is not a choice, it's go look at how the straights treat each other.
Which, to segue back into Headcanon,
okay, go on.
No, I'm just saying,
your headcanon as someone who's not straight about straights.
Yes, because I have never experienced a heterosexual relationship. Like, even the few relationships I had with women were queer AF. I mean, they were just like, they were not heterosexual in any way, shape, or form. And I see how my straight friends behave in their relationships and hear stories and hear tales about them. I see the internet and all that it reports back to me about straight relationships. And then there are these collections of what the hell is going on with straight people that has created such a headcanon of the nightmare world that is heterosexuality.
Yes.
That it is problematic when dealing with other people, because I do have a very profound headcanon of what I feel like most heterosexual relationships must be like, based on siblings, my parents, in-laws, the friends and people I've had, and the stories that I've encountered. They all overlap way too much for this just to be an illusion. Which brings up the very fun question of, what is the difference between a headcanon and a conspiracy theory? Like,
application.
Honest.
They're actually about the same.
Yeah.
Like, there's not much of a difference. Real quick before I forget, though, I just want to point out, see, we got 108 words. You are amazing, darling. I hope you know that. Yes.
Oh,
did I forget anybody else? Like, where is it? Did it anybody? I'm just scanning.
There's math somewhere. I don't know. But
okay, to like Maggie who did math.
Yeah. So, still on the topic of like the relationships. Because I was raised like my dad will like just randomly be like, "Oh, these flowers are pretty. I'll get them," and he'll give them to my stepmom. So like the fact that there are people with relationships of like they get flowers from their significant other and they're like, "What the hell did you do?" It's just strange to me. Because if you only give someone flowers or chocolates or something when you've done something wrong, that's just weird.
My friendship circle, like the headcanon has spread around so much that all the straight people that I know that are in happy relationships are like, oh no, we're queer. We're actually happy. Like we're on the LGBTQ spectrum somewhere because we're happy, and straight relationships are never happy.
Yeah, Eva says, I've been in a monogamous relationship for 20 plus years and potentially add to your studies and your theories, Charlie. I was in for 11, well, technically a total of 13 years. I was in a hetero appearing, hetero presentating marriage. It was, and that was insane. It was the most insane thing I'd ever done and still have ever done. I am here to tell you, because since my relationship appeared to be hetero, I was invited to all of these social circles that are also hetero. And I was always queer. I always knew I was queer. And my partner at the time, knew, and he accepted it. So we would come away from these dinners and lunches and barbecues going, what the heck is up with people? People would say the most insane crap to us at these parties, thinking that we were doing the same thing or not doing the same, just wild stuff of if you treated anyone else like this in the whole world, they would not only leave you, they would lose your number, they would deny having ever known you, they would file charges, but inside of a marriage, perfectly acceptable. I literally knew about voter fraud that husbands did against their wives, and the wives did not report their husbands because, hey, he owns half the house. And I mean, this was rampant. This is it wasn't just one couple, it was an entire lodge of a, secret society. All the husbands did that. And I was Tom, you can't be a member anymore. Yeah, I did say that. I said that as a big pushy older sister. I was like, we cannot associate with these people. God knows what other illegal things they're doing. We have to get away. There's so much. Anyway. So yeah, I have all sorts of crazy ideas about straight people, but they are all based in fact. And I've been discussing about this for over 20 years of why are they like this? Queer relationships.
Because that's the fascinating thing to me when it comes to headcanon is getting people to understand the differentiation between what you've pieced together from your Sherlock Holmes, of course, level of super sleuthing on the interwebs and what is actual reality is a big problem that we as a culture are going to face. Like, this is the most relevant topic because previously headcanons were something we held individually. Right. They're not, maybe you shared it with a friend, maybe with a family, maybe in the 80s you started a newsletter because those were all the rage.
Oh, don't forget a zine.
Oh, and the zines.
Yes.
You could influence a couple more people. With the advent of the internet, everyone has a theory. And like, you know, I've said this 1,000 times, and regardless of whatever you thought about the various Star Wars sequel movies, I just had to unsubscribe to people who were basically making the argument of, I wrote meticulous fan fiction based on what you said in your trailers, and you didn't make my fan fiction. My headcanon's not what's on this movie. How dare you, sir? And I'm just like, okay, no, this is headcanon run amok. Like, I'm not saying you can't dislike the movies. Like, there are many reasons to like and dislike every film. And everybody can have a different opinion. But there were so many people that I thought were legitimate reviewers that when you actually paid attention to their review, they were just sitting there dumbstruck. Like, well, but you cast this person and I saw this screenshot from behind the scenes and this thing, which means this thing should have happened. Where did it go? Why didn't this happen? I knew what was going on. I got a copy of at least 6 people's handwritten fanfic scripts that they swore to me were actually leaked from the set. And you didn't film a single word of that fan fiction. What is wrong with you people?
So I used to know people like this in real life, and we all thought they were just kooks. Like, yeah, in my late teens, early 20s, I knew people. I did hang out at a bunch of truck stops, y'all. And it was anthropology. And I mean, we would meet people like this. Yes, they would have scripts sometimes, and they would have other books, unpublished books. One of them I deeply regret that my then husband bartered for. And I think I own this, or did we burn it? That one, anyway, it needed to be burned, y'all. I'm hoping I burned it. But, you know, like, we just thought these people were kooks, but now they have like internet platform to like just
put it all out there.
Normalize what they're saying, I guess. But like, can you imagine the presumption of like, how did you not like psychically know, or how did you not consult me about your multi-billion-dollar movie? Like, how is this not some diagnosable mental condition?
Because I'm not going to name names, but there's at least three Star Wars YouTube channels that had over like 50,000 subs each that were irate because no, I read this leaked script and that's not what I saw in the theater. Then you read somebody's fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Or they just went in a different direction. I mean, like, they'll pay people for scripts and they're just like essentially keeping writers fed for another year, but like that, they're not legally obligated to film it.
Because I absolutely love headcanon. It's one of my favorite things. Like, I have sworn since I was a young kid, I know exactly what the Doctor's real name is. But that's just because I'm one of those obsessive people. Do I actually know? No, because they haven't written it down in canon yet. His real name could be Bob.
For all we know.
Yeah. Because they haven't written it yet. It's not. This is the thing that I just has been really getting me about some of the fan theories and headcanons that are going out there. Because same thing. Fan theory is just you putting your headcanon out into the world to infect others. Fiction is fake. I need to put big banners out in the world. Fiction is fake. Just because you've done all of the work to look through all of the clues that they've put in the story, they don't have to actually do that. In any, like, as much as, you know, Benioff and Weiss torpedoed Game of Thrones right into the ground. Okay. But they didn't owe anyone anything. It's their show. If they wanted to ruin their careers and lose a couple $1 billion movie deals that they had, fine. More power to them. But we have this confusion because we as human animals don't understand the distinction between a story we tell ourselves and actual events. Because events don't often line up in real narrative format. We piece them into a narrative so we can remember them or so that we can share them with others. There's usually a lot more messiness in the actual events that gets ground off to make for a narrative. And when we're actually doing a story.
What you remember today is not truly what happened, because every time you remember something, your brain actually rewrites it.
Yep.
Every time. So you might not have any pieces of the same story as somebody else from an event that you were both in attendance for.
I would say one of the things I have studied and found, unfortunately, really true, and something to always remember about humans, is that humans are not logical creatures. Humans are emotional creatures who use logic to justify what their emotions told them, and they will always stick to whatever their emotion told them. That's why several psychologists have been coming out. If you actually want someone to change, and you want to deprogram the cultists who are among your family, there is a method. There's only one single successful method in deprogramming. And they have studied this for literally at least a century now. And they've still only found one, which is you have to get that individual to ask questions about their own beliefs. If you can't get them to question it, you cannot change another person's views because it's their own views.
And that's why national tragedies cause shakeups. Like everything that we're experiencing right now is a culmination of 9/11 and Katrina, and name the long cavalcade of natural disasters and man-made disasters that have been hitting people. Each time your universe gets interrupted in that profound way. Like, how could this happen? Like, that something, whatever it is, your house burns down, right? A loved one suddenly dies. And you ask yourself, how could this happen? Your brain literally disconnects all of the things that you once held as part of your story and starts looking for ways to reconnect it back together. And that's when massive social change happens. When I kept saying over the last year, I can't wait to see the society that we get a couple years after the pandemic. We've been living in that disassociated realm for a year now. Because every time we think we know what's happening with the pandemic or with this or with the other thing, something else swoops in and just bam, like a meteor, and shakes everything loose again. And everything's just floating around in there. And I just want people to understand the difference between fan fiction, headcanons, and reality. That's all I want. That's all I want.
And here's the worst but real truth about fiction. Since it's fiction and it's somebody's, personal property and creation, they can retcon whatever they want. I mean, you don't have to like it after that. You don't have to in any way support it or read it or talk about it again, but they can change even the reality, quote unquote, of their fiction at any time, as we see constantly. I mean, and the difference between retconning that keeps and improves a fandom and retconning that, breaks apart a fandom is, do they change the way the character's core personality is? As long as you can stick with the character's personalities, you can change whatever event you want. No one's going to be upset. Because people are emotionally attached to other people for how they act and who they are. They're not actually attached to them for what they did.
Doctor Who has been on TV since, 1963?
Yep.
And has had, I think, 15 different people in total play the Doctor, some stripe of the Doctor over that period of time. Each one brought their own idea to it. But the core of who the Doctor is that obnoxious person who knows everything, who can't help but interfere in the lives of other people in what he or she hopes is the best way possible to bring about a good situation.
Being the ultimate missionary.
Yeah. Yeah. But that core has stayed. That's how you can trade out actors every 3 to 5 years for my goodness, what are we on now? 60 years?
Yeah, something like that.
And it works because it's still the same character. You can look at David Tennant's Doctor, and you can look back at Robert Pertwee's Doctor. And there are similarities between them, even though there's about 40 years between those two things. And Doctor Who's a masterclass on how to keep that core of a character alive.
Well, according to the writers, they've always written the Doctor the same. It's just the difference we see is how the actors portray. But the dialogue apparently is pretty much true to the story Bible that every new writer gets to see. So they understand, there's a section on how to write the Doctor. There's certain phrases you go with, whatever, for that Doctor. But apparently they haven't changed it like 40, 50 years. And that's what they do. So the heart of who that character is does not change. It's just how it's portrayed by the actor, but they're still saying the same lines every time.
And that's why there was such a schism in the fandom when Daniel Craig took over as 007, because they decided to completely rewrite and reboot the way James Bond is. And some of that for the better. Some of that they started with Pierce Brosnan. Like, maybe he shouldn't be quite a sexist. Maybe we should tone some of that down. Like, not all of the changes were bad. But whether you watch, it was Casino Royale, wasn't it? The first Daniel Craig?
Yeah.
007?
I want to say yes.
It was such a jarring experience because these were lighthearted, fun adventure movies that you just went on a larf with James. And now they're like, no, we're doing a Bourne Identity gritty thriller. And some people rolled with it and were like, best James Bond ever. And other people were like, that's not my James Bond. And because it violates that core of who the character is.
And so that's the things to remember about fiction. But that's also where you see these groups of fans turning toxic, is they're more attached to their emotional interpretation of something than even what they actually read. They're now attached to what they interpreted as meaning. And it's very hard to change those perceptions. And that's why you see, where there's real money involved in these major productions, them now going into the fandom ahead of time to make sure their expectations are being steered in the same direction that the IP is going to go in.
And when Marvel test markets everything, literally everything in the comics, there are 5,000 Spider-Men. They've tried every possible flavor of Spider-Man. They know which ones people like. There's literally a Spider-Man that is a collection of spiders who dress up as Peter Parker in a spider suit and pretend to be a man. That's literally one of the spider. They've tried everything.
Where can I find this?
I can't remember which issue that was. I'll look it up. But that actually was a series that they did.
Yes.
Yes, and Spider-Man was a collective of...
And to even go back of like where Gloria and I actually developed a problem why we didn't really continue watching Doctor Who recently. It wasn't the way the current Doctor was being played. She's a great actress, but it's the storytelling was no longer the same style as every previous version. Doctor Who for the longest time was a kid's show. It was written for middle schoolers to hide behind their couch.
Well, elementary, actually.
Elementary. And for them to then go to, the schoolyard the next day and tell these stories. And so it's about the fears of upper elementary. That's what it was always supposed to be about. And with the most recent changeover in showrunner, it's now more for, adults. It's not really written for children. And that's where they lost us as, our interest in it was just, this isn't written for the kind of story we were interested in.
And it's the second time that the franchise has had that exact problem. And because who was it? I can never remember his name because I always want to say Robert, but it wasn't Robert. It was the last Doctor Who before the switch, before it went away, before the reboot. and they'd really gone to much more adult storytelling with him.
Yeah.
And you go back and you read the interviews with the writers, they were like, well, we had been doing this for, at that point, like 20 some years. And we're like, our audience stayed with us and we felt we should grow up with them. That was obviously the wrong thing to do. And you see that now, because it's been what, 15, 20 years since.
Yeah. It started in 2005, I think.
Yeah. So that you can see like the logic there of we're just trying to grow up with our audience, because you can see how that easily comes in there, but it forgets what the show actually is.
Well, I mean, like that is the issue with a lot of comic books, a lot of comic book franchise is they were trying to grow up with their readers, and that meant they were not renewing any new readers. So you're going to have a natural drop-off of readers, no matter whether you age up your story for your readers or not. Some people are just going to move on to something else. And so their group of readers kept dwindling because they weren't getting new readers in. And they just kept telling stories as their readers aged, as their readers became teens. And in their early 20s, and then their late 20s, and then their early 30s, and then their 40s. And they're like, oh, comic book sales is down. Well, no kidding. You haven't done anything to get the kids hooked on these stories. So, and as every year goes by, you have a few more readers drop off for whatever their personal reasons, be it financial or, oh, well, my interests are different. And so, yeah, the readership is dwindling because you have to always be getting new readers. That is how the system works. So in the end, you just go with what works instead of trying to age up your stories, because that is a losing game. It does go back to headcanon of like, well, what's missing from this? The whole point of headcanon is the parts that aren't told. And you as the individual or as the small group want that story, that side quest told. And we want that, but do we necessarily want to age it up? I mean, it can be fun, for Spider-Man to get little spider kids and a spider spouse and maybe eventually be a spider grandparent. That can be fun, but that shouldn't be the main franchise when the main franchise is for school kids. That's why Peter Parker's a teenager.
This is one of the things that's really
middle school kids always want to read about older kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the things that's really hurt fantasy fiction, because we have things like the Silmarillion, right? Because Lord of the Rings was written as a single book. It came out as 3 volumes over time, but it was written and handed to the publisher as a single book. They said edit it into 3 copies, ripped the manuscript into 3 parts and went there. Because you gotta love the cojones of that, right? But we have the Silmarillion, which is this amazing collection of stories, which is literally his headcanon. Drafts of the stories that are in the Silmarillion, he started writing those during World War I. Some of those drafts go back to 1917 and carried all the way through. But he wasn't publishing those. He wasn't publishing the Lost Tales. All of those stories that came out posthumously, can you imagine him trying to appease an audience with all of the stories about Legolas and all of the shenanigans that he got into, or Strider and all of his issues with the elves, and why Elrod's like, you're not gonna have my daughter. Because that was all his headcanon. If he was putting that all out, it would have seemed strange. It would have seemed bizarre, but we have it after the fact, right? So we're just like, oh, there's more? Yay, and we get to read it all as a collection, not as it actually was developed over time. And so it seems like, oh, well, you can just dig into one franchise and develop it out and age it up as time goes on, because there are portions of the Silmarillion that we know that he wrote towards the end of his life, and they are really adult themed and really dealing with some like strong issues there. And there are some stories that he wrote back when he was writing The Hobbit for his kids that are very childish and just, fun, good times. But that was never the plan. We weren't ever supposed to see those stories. We were supposed to see The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and maybe that 4th age book if he ever got around to writing it. Those were the ones we were supposed to see. But here we have his actual headcanon just being put out into the world by his son. And it has messed up a lot of writers thinking that's what I have to do too. Yeah, in your own notebooks at home. As you're working out how your series works.
I have, and you can search for them, you'll find them. I've read through, the three major drafts of what eventually became Star Wars, and they are all majorly different. These are not little edits. These are major rewrites of most of the story in each draft, as they are trying to figure out what is this story.
And for anybody who has a Marvel Unlimited account, they actually produced the second draft script as a comic book series called The Star Wars. So if you want to see what the early drafts looked like, some of the names are reminiscent of characters you meet later. But that might be for some people who have access to that. It's a 6 comic limited run that they did, limited series.
But I mean, and so it's like, even authors have, little headcanons and little alternate universes for their stories. That would have been great, but it didn't work with the story I was telling here. And these characters were fun, but they needed to be different people to work in this story.
Right. Yeah.
And that's fine.
I mean, I have plenty in the things I've written where I changed a character or repurposed a character. And that's normal, but that doesn't mean that the headcanon, even for readers, needs to change from whatever they already are doing based on what is published or will be published. Again, I just want to point out how headcanon for readers is so important to kind of... There's a few writers in this world who are incredibly talented. And when they write, you don't even necessarily have headcanon because it's so beautiful on its own. It's there. It's there. Maybe the only headcanon you ever have is how you want to insert yourself into that world. Like there are a few, there are very few, but there are a few writers in this world who are like that. And for everyone else, welcome to the mediocrity. There's plenty of room for everyone's headcanon and stories to go along and augment whatever that writer has published or allowed to be published, because we're all just mudding through. and as long as nobody has a presumption that their headcanon is valid and others are not valid, run with it. Look, I got a degree in psychology, and I do not understand people who think whatever they think should be the golden truth. That literally doesn't make sense to me. Like I cannot even wrap my mind around this idea of like, well, I thought it should be this way, so they're wrong for it. And I'm like, what? Or I thought this way, so you can't have a different headcanon. I'm going to bully you or troll you now. Like, wait, what? This is all fun for all of us to just share our crazy ideas and enjoy each other's and maybe help edit each other's crazy ideas. It should be fun. Right? Because, like, isn't the kind of the best part about headcanon and fanfic communities is they help grow writers? Because there's all these people volunteering to alpha and beta read, and all these people volunteering to edit and to teach young writers or new writers how to edit better. I would not be the editor I am today had not literally dozens of people helped edit my work for free, and then not just edit it, but then walk me paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence, about why this needs improvement and what the improvement needs to be. And then us workshop it together to come up with better sentences in my writing voice. That is how I became a better editor, is dozens upon dozens of people, including people who frankly didn't know me jack, who just out of the kindness of their heart was like, you need help. Here, I will help. Like right here, right now, buy me a Big Mac and I will help you. I will help you edit all this right now and then never come to me again. That kind of But I appreciated every last bit of that because I didn't have a community yet to help me in my alpha and beta reading and editing needs. And I certainly never had the money to hire anybody who actually knew what they were doing. And that's kind of like what we really are trying to build here with this channel and this platform, is to help grow and support and nurture a young fledgling writing community. Because let's be honest, the thing I found mostly from most of the author tubers, there are some bigger author tubers who seem like they're doing just fine, but most of the author tubers, particularly the below 1K, below the 1,000 subscriber mark, they're writing because it seems like, and I could be totally off here, but I'm just going to say my headcanon theory, that they don't have the support at home in real life. So they are coming to the AuthorTube community looking for support, whether it's just encouragement or it's alpha and beta reading and editing. They're looking for support. And also they want to be heard because they do not feel heard in their real life. And I think most writers I've come across, not just with AuthorTube, but like in general, out in the wild, you know, we occasionally spot each other, like at bookstores and libraries. It happens. And most of them do not sound like people who are really heard in their life. They seem like people who are talked over a lot. Like everyone talks over them in their real life. And that can be maddening. And instead of going mad, they're writing. It's the most positive thing you can do instead of going mad. Is to be heard through your writing. And so that's like, yes, let's build this community. Let's nurture it. Let's spread all the shit around so the little young things can grow. Let's do that and that's why we're like, hey, headcanon, this is how you grow writers. Yeah, there's some headcanon that's some real shit. And you know what? Little flowers grow from that.
And also, headcanon's a great place to get ideas for stories, because especially if your headcanon never comes to fruition in a series that's complete.
Yeah.
Well, you already have a worked out plot in your head. Congratulations.
Yeah. Here, let me tell you one that I've come to accept, that despite how much I feel I am I don't care that much for humans in general. Thinking about this headcanon story, I had to accept that in the end, I do view the world in a compassionate way. And it's, you know, my headcanon story we kind of alluded to about the Matrix. And it's one I haven't heard anywhere else.
Yeah, share your Matrix one. It's fascinating.
So my headcanon takes place at the end of the second movie, when when Neo has gotten his eyes damaged or whatever, and he's got them bandaged up, the squids have come to attack and are about to kill everyone. And Neo manages, through sheer mind power, seemingly, to disable all of the attack squids. And yeah, in the third movie, they came up with a reason for what's going on. I'll be honest, I didn't really hold to it. In my mind, the story I came up with, because to me, the first two movies, neither of them ever quite felt right. It always felt a little bit like a magician, that there was more things behind the scenes going on, things never added up. And so in my mind, the third movie and the real reality of what's going on is that, yes, the humans and machines got into a war. Humans, while we are pack animals, are also innately distrustful of anything that does not seem like us. I mean, dogs have evolved eyebrows just to communicate facially with us.
It's so cute. I love the little doggy eyebrows. It's real.
Wolves don't have eyebrows, but dogs do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. They like, you see it like in Rottweilers and stuff. That's not part of the original breed. They just developed it in a desperate need to communicate with us.
And so yes, there was this war. Oh,
the pettins.
Doggy eyebrows.
Such cute eyebrows too.
Hi, Peanut.
So expressive. And so what I figured probably was going on is once we've got you in a virtual reality that you cannot distinguish from reality, that is the whole point of the Matrix. How do you know when you're out of it? There will always be some people who will assume their reality is fake. We have this in humans now. We have people who really think that there is something wrong with their reality. There has to be something else. That's where you get all these conspiracy theories and cultists and everything else going on. So what if the Matrix and Zion and all of these are levels to try to grow humans to not mistrust machines, to learn how to work with them? And so once we see, and so the only humans that ever truly actually get out of the Matrix, because Neo is still in the Matrix, which is why he can still interact with the machines, even though humans don't have Wi-Fi built in.
If only. No. I don't want it. I need at a certain point I get off the grid.
And we kind of see a little bit of these implications in the Animatrix short stories they did as well, of they're looking to see humans who are okay with machines, who view, as we see at the end of the third movie, that these are just programs. There's nothing inherently more dangerous about them than there is about any human. And so once they see humans that are okay with them, then those actually get pulled out of all the 4 levels of the Matrix, so they can be a citizen in this new world they built, the humans and the machines built together. But they realize that they can't just let everyone exist in this world, or else you will always have rebellions because of human nature. So they're having to essentially let people pass civility tests to see, how human and how humane they can be with others before they can go into the society. In the meantime, we just, like Idiocracy, the theory is it's not the entire world, it's just the US. They turned the, eastern half of the US into a giant playpen for people who just were refusing to evolve and develop their humanity. And they just let them all
right now.
Yeah. And to stay together. And it's the same thing of, no, the rest of the world's fine in Idiocracy. It's just a small area. Because no, they never go to California there. It's just, and as well as how could they create food if all their crops are failing, or this technology, they wouldn't have any of these abilities. No, it's coming from somewhere else. It's coming from outside. And the same thing with the Matrix. You can't just keep re-destroying all of humans and starting over from, a couple of them. It doesn't work. The machines would have figured this out long ago. They wouldn't have needed 6 or 7 or more versions to figure this out. Human psychology tells you that. And so that's why in my headcanon, that they're still within a matrix. They are still having to test out
like Inception,
to show they're human.
You're waking up, but how do you know when you do wake up out of a dream versus you're still in the dream?
It'll be interesting to see if they go along those lines in the 4th movie that's coming out later this year.
I am so curious.
I am so curious what the 4th one's going to be.
2023, though.
It's on the HBO Max schedule for release this year.
Oh, heck yes.
Well, I know they finished filming all of the live action stuff. It was just getting all of the CG stuff done. I mean,
yeah.
And the Wachowskis do a lot of CG work. So it's more, I think, of that of like, how long is it going to take? But yeah, I'm curious to see what direction they go in, because, I mean, they've changed a lot in the last 10 years.
I love how, like, your headcanon, like, actually fits quite nicely into the one that I've had for years, in that I don't believe that the computers needed humans for power.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. We are bad batteries. We're really bad batteries. But one thing we are really good at is we're entropy generators. We are very good entropy generators. Now, I'm using that in the term of the way computer science uses entropy rather than the way a physicist would. There are certain calculations that require a authentic amount of chaos to be harvested. And so you actually have in your computer an entropy chip that is just looking for weird things happening and basically constantly making pseudo-random numbers. And that's how all of your security comes into being. That's how a lot of calculations are done, is through these pseudo-random numbers, through this harvesting of entropy. what is the best sink to develop entropy from? Humans. Like, we were actually in the Matrix as both a generator of entropy for some of their security systems, as well as a way to pose problems that needed complex simulation to find answers to. They were we were part of the system. That's always been like the way that I've looked at it, and I love how it builds like it. That slots perfectly into why they would even bother.
I was like, you're gonna love Tom's Matrix headcanon. I have been thinking about this headcanon for like, I don't know, 15 years now, since the second movie. Since after we saw the second movie, Tom was like, here's what I think will happen.
And it goes with, just my views that I can't remember what I was reading recently, some fiction about the far future. And they didn't call, instead of calling it AI, they called it the advent of emotional machines. And it's because that, more than intelligence, is what really defines sentience to us, is the interplay of knowledge with emotion.
Mm.
And once you can kind of master the two together, because emotion also tells you intrinsic things that are not obvious, but are still needful for functioning. That's why pain works. Don't do that. Your body can't repair it quickly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we created machines advanced enough to have a self-preservation instinct, then we would have, by that nature, created emotional machines, which means because you can't create anything except through your own perspective, just by nature of it, like, we cannot ask a question. We do not have a concept for without the concept of the answer already.
Yes,
there has to be compassion in the machines as well. We couldn't make those machines programmed without compassion if they already had self-preservation. And that's again the part of like, no, they had to eventually like call a peace, because the machines couldn't survive that kind of slaughter.
Yeah, they can't regenerate or reproduce that fast. There's a lot of manufacturing going on, and all of that uses energy, and all of it takes a certain level of time.
Because a lot of like my Matrix ideas are informed by the fact that I have read, watched, and looked at way too much Transformers fiction over the years, because I mean, huge fan. And this is something that constantly comes up, because in a society that's perpetually at war, they are metal. They can't wounds never heal.
Right.
And so everything is about repair and attempts to get to stasis. And you see, as more writers have been coming into the series, this like profound thing, like the new Netflix series does this so well, where because they're using CG models for all of the characters, every scratch they get, every dent, every ding from every fight persists from episode to episode going through. And you really get that sense of they're not healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that ends up being this kind of metaphor for that cultural harm that they just carry with them. Mm-hmm. And you see this like in the Lost Light stories that came out. I think, was that Dreamwave? I can't remember. Too many comic book publishers have published Transformers comics over the years. Okay. I think it was the Dreamwave series that they did the Lost Light, where they all go out on the ship to find a better world.
Yeah, I think that one was
where you have Decepticons and Autobots on the same team trying to make for a better world. And the whole theme
you can't keep up that kind of destruction.
Yeah, and because the whole theme is because we are unchanging. Because they don't get older, they don't age, they don't mature, they don't that sense of change can't happen. And so they're just stuck. You did bad, you must be punished for bad. And you can't break out of that without the concept of change.
Change and transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this has like also been always my problem with the old style Catholic idea of hell, of Yeah, for people who are always sick and want other people to hurt because they are hurt, that was, the norm for health for, a very long time. Hell makes a certain sense as it was developed. But now it really doesn't make the same kind of sense of why would you give an eternity to just hurting something? Because for a short period of time, it did some bad. I mean, you're talking about 90 years versus, 9 billion years. That equation, again, doesn't make sense. Versus the concept of, hell being a place to make people better, as we saw in The Good Place.
Which is why every pope for the last, I think, with the exception of one, because Cardinal Ratzinger was a pedophile who should never have been put in charge of the church, I'm just going to say. But every pope before him, going back to the 1920s, has very clearly said the biggest surprise we're going to have is when we die, that there is no one in hell. That's a huge statement for someone in that level of power to have, but it's because of exactly what you're saying. Like, this is a change in international headcanon, right? That is really gripping people. I mean, you go back and read in the 1920s and you have, Pope Leo being very clear about that. Like, we're going to be surprised because we think we know all these people are definitely down there burning. And he said the first thing that he imagines is that he'll fall to his knees and apologize because he misjudged people so badly. And that's a huge change that's happening in human consciousness. Because we have to, you can't just throw out thousands of years of ideation. It has to grow and develop. Because if you try to throw it out, people will cling on to it even harder. Which, by the way, is actually what the sequel trilogy was trying to say in a very ham-fisted sort of a way. That was the actual message of,
but it was just so ham-fisted.
Kill it.
They needed a fine point Sharpie, and they used the Magnum Sharpie.
Yeah.
We're talking about Matrix right now? Which sequel trilogy?
No, the Star Wars.
The Star Wars sequel trilogy. That's actually the message they were going for in that. That's why, like, half the lines of the bad guys are, let the past die. And it's just like, no, we're going to build out of it and make it our own. We're all fanboys who know the past, but we're making our own different future. Like, that was actually the point of it. But yeah, I see how that got lost. I do.
And on that note, how about we have a goat break? I mean, isn't it about time to check on the little goats? I think so.
Baby goat. We need some baby goats. Baby goats.
Look, I'm just saying. I'm ready for a pee break. And we will meet back here. I'm thinking 15 minutes because Austin K, I think she has a timer. Yes, more mist. I'm in a mist mood, y'all. I can do that. This is Misty Mountain. 15 minutes.
Glory, your goth is showing. I can see the goblin in you.
I'm seriously PMS. Well, it's not PMS. I guess it's post. Whatever. Look, I got cramps. Okay. So, guess what? You get to see the real Glory, and I like mist. I want to feel all of that. I want to walk in a diaphanous gown all across the moors at sunset. But you can't tell because it's so misty and wet. I want to come in slightly dripping from fog.
Girl gonna find her Heathcliff tonight.
Oh, I had so many opinions about him. Okay. Anyway, that's another. Okay.
Glory has some headcanon ideas for the next season of Bridgerton that needs to be there, or we will not be watching it anymore.
So we probably won't be watching the second season because they never go with my ideas.
How dare they not film your fan fiction? How dare they?
It's so simple. Everyone expects this. Just give the people what they expect and want. They need to have a fountain, and they need to be in some white shirts. Yes, and they need to fight like sissies. Like the dandies they are.
Look, I want an homage to Bridget Jones. I want two British guys fighting in a fountain, slap fighting, by the way, because they're from Eton and they don't know how to fight like real people. Yes, I want them slap fighting in a freaking fountain in like those billowy white shirts so we could see everything. This is what I want. I think it's perfectly reasonable. I don't think they'll do it because they're cretins. Yes, thank you. I'm so glad that you sign off on this one. So, anyway, I'm so glad you all can join me in my joyous judgment of the Bridgerton writing room. Okay, let's do a 15-minute goat break in 3, 2, 1, sprint. Oh, love y'all. beep, 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 beep. Hello, hello. How did everybody do?
If my camera would have been on, y'all would have just seen me going, saying F you, F you, F F F you.
Oh dear.
About my
That well, you say?
put a screenshot of a thing that their professor put for their online class of, let me go find it again. Because, like, I can get that you want your students to be paying attention during their class, like, but where'd it go? Open, you stupid thing. It's like, you can't, like, you have to be dressed professionally. You have to be sitting at a desk or a table. You have to be, you can't eat. You can't get up to leave. You can't make sure there's no pet interruptions. It's like, excuse you?
Excuse me, I live for the pet interruptions. Are you kidding? I mean, have y'all seen my bingo card?
What I hear is people who have never taken a single classroom management course in their life. That's what I hear in those rules.
Right. Yeah.
Here it is. Hold on. Arrive a couple of minutes early, and you have to have your camera on at all times. Dress as if you were going out in public. No bathrobes or blankets. I'm sorry. Are you going to pay my heating bills? I'm wearing a damn blanket.
Right. You have to wear a coat there.
Yeah. Nothing going on in, like, how are you going to control your roommates walking in and out if you have to be at a table and you don't have a desk? Like,
right.
What the heck?
There's so much privilege in this list.
So your entire face is visible at all times. And just your lighting and camera position if needed. Sorry, what?
I finally got my lighting the way I like it, so just deal with it, people.
I cannot wait for y'all to see my new lighting. It was delayed by cramps, but I'm hoping next week.
But that's just by the way, that was just the list of what fit in the screenshot.
Wow.
And it was much more detailed than what I just rattled off.
I mean, what I hear is not a good teacher. I hear that this is somebody who is not a good teacher, and they are not in any way trying to learn how to be a better teacher. So they are instead demanding everyone else, behave in a certain way rather than them, the teacher, being the one to lead how to behave. Because, as y'all may or may not know, I can teach to everyone be in avatar mode, and I still do, if I do say myself, a kick-ass freaking job. I don't need to see my students. I'm fine. I used to tell them, if you want to put your head down, that's fine.
See, my biggest problem is I can't tell if this is ego or complete lack of self-esteem. Like, if I can't see that you're paying attention to me, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's definitely a small ego. It's definitely a person with a small self-esteem and an ego issue.
So, my computer has a camera, but it runs better when I turn it off.
Right.
Watching the lecture, a lot of times I have to turn my camera off so that my lecture doesn't freeze.
Right. Because it's not like they're subsidizing your technology.
Sure, we can rent or acquire a computer from school, but they only have a limited amount.
Right.
And considering so many students are online right now, what do they expect? And what if somebody's it's an online class, so what if they're not even here? They could be in another state.
Oh yeah, now this is just them trying to, show that they are the one in charge, and they have all the power. And that's all here is a power trip.
All the popcorn. Just all of it.
So
And a lot of privilege that they assume. Doesn't everyone have a room just for their computer?
Oh, of course.
I mean,
this
and
is
one to put all of your other peoples in.
Yes, and be sure to tell your housekeeper to stay out of the shot when you're in class.
Close the gate on the peoples because we just don't need them ruining the shot.
I do not miss.
We set this entire room up just so I would have a more soundproof place in the house to stream from. And how often have you heard or seen?
Oh, I love it when I hear the pitter patter of little paws. Oh, I love it. It's like, I love it. I love hearing everybody's little paw pitter patters. Oh, miss that sound so much from my dachshund. Oh, yes. I love hearing
all I can think.
I want to see everyone's pet.
After hearing that list of requirements, all I can think is this little thing I saw of remember to blow on your cup so that to encourage the belief that you are drinking coffee or tea versus the wine or alcohol you're actually downing.
I've known teachers who do that too.
Yes, this is entirely vodka. This is just pure vodka here because,
I had my favorite biology teacher in college. That mug never, ever saw coffee. It was always like, oh, it's tea. It was whiskey. I know what whiskey smells like. It was pure whiskey, y'all. Like, you could have lit it. It was so strong. And I loved him. He was my favorite professor, but he was drunk. And I don't mean tipsy. He was drunk for every single survey class I took from him. Loved it. I loved it. He was great. He would just talk about weird things about amoebas. It was fantastic. I loved his class so much that I became one of his evaluators for science fairs. So schools have science fairs, right? And they need, impartial judges. And so I became a regular. He had a newsletter from back in the old days, back when we had a ditto machine. He'd send out this newsletter, and now he emailed it. And every year, it's like, I will totally be one of your judges. Tell me what school I'm going to. Because he was sending out judges. He had a team of about 60 different people who take days off from work to go judge because everyone loved him. But this man definitely had a drinking problem. And we talked to him about it. And his daughter, who was a teenager, would show up once in a while like, so have you talked to Dad about his drinking problem? Like, we've all tried. We've gotten your emails. 14-year-old would send emails like, please, if you could talk to Dad about it. This is a list of AA meetings. But we all adored him because he was wonderful. Anyway, that has nothing to do with anything that Kat wanted to talk about. However, he was great at classroom management. Although one time we did have some guy go, well, to hell with this, threw down his textbook and huffed out of the room, out of this enormous classroom. We had bleacher seats. He came back later and apologized. I don't know. He was upset about something about mammals. I'm not sure. It did not make sense. But anyway, I see that people did stuff in the break, but there's talk about games. Let's see. Laura added music to her video for Orla's anthology. So you're already going to be better than mine. So congratulations. I have no music playing.
I'm not doing it this time. Next time.
Let's see. Megan, I looked for photos to practice my description on. I mean, Megan's bringing her A game. That's for sure.
That's actually a really good practice. That's a really good thing to do. Back in the day when we could actually leave the house, I used to like to go down to the park and describe the ducks in the water because I had to describe motion, and it was chaotic motion because you never knew if they were just going to be placidly going along or if some jack was going to throw something off the bridge and they'd either scatter, attack, or all pounce on it. You just didn't know what was going to happen.
That's true.
Great way to practice.
I used to cut my teeth on anytime I was mad at my mother. I was a teenager. I would cut my teeth on describing her in a different way. like both as a human, but sometimes as an animal, quite frankly, like as a mad tiger, as a hoarding dragon, whatever she reminded me of in that moment that I was so frustrated, and then I would describe that and make my father listen as part of my venting session. So good times. Everyone can do this. Go practice.
Gloria and I, when we're having better days, have a game for what to watch, where we'll go on to Amazon or Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and go look up, what show looks like it'll be fun to watch. And then based on just the name and whatever, the image looks like, one of us will make up a story of what we think this could be. And then we'll watch the trailer. And if our story is better than the trailer, we're not going to watch it. Because we should not be able to make up a better story than people who have spent countless weeks and months on something.
And how much money?
Right.
And then, we just did 2 minutes.
I like that. Consider that.
That's what we do for fun. I do recommend it's a fun game to play with your friends, family, whoever's with you, of like doing that. Especially places like Amazon Prime and Netflix that have so many trailers. We love trailers.
And Amazon Prime has some of the crappiest movies ever made in the history of humanity.
So bad. It's wonderful, y'all.
That's where I watched the entire Revelation Road trilogy, which I highly recommend. It's amazing because Angry Hobo Jesus helps the biker kill people. It's great. And these are supposed to be actual Christian movies.
Go on.
What verse is Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter?
I mean, okay, fair. That's a good point.
These are some of the Pure Flix movies.
Maggie made dinner and put it in the oven. I think it's rotisserie chicken shepherd's pie, which sounds freaking amazing. And gave the baby goats bottles because the youngest brought them in the house. I mean, because it's a goat break, Maggie.
Go. Baby goat.
Obviously, I do not have my act together because I haven't put a banner up for either break. I just realized it this moment because I was like, I have a goat break banner. I did not put that up.
You're just being avant-garde. You're ahead of all of us.
I adore you. Laura is cooking up some popcorn because she is awesome. And Megan just finished eating popcorn and shared some with the puppies. Enjoy the farts. Eva just did my entire BA with remote learning, no cameras required.
Just throwing shade on this teacher.
Just shading Kat's experience of like Kat's in bad teacher hell.
Go to the next one as well. There's more.
Oh, or microphones, or even specific attendance type. See, that's how you do it. Okay, where that's a good school.
Well, so we have like the traditional class, which is everything in person, right? And then we have hybrid, which is in person, and then half your work is online. You make up for the second day with an online content that you just do whenever. And then we have two different versions of online. We have asynchronous, so do it whenever you want, just make sure it's done before the due date. And then we have synchronous, which means it's basically a traditional class, but in your bedroom.
Maggie says, we had one complaint because they heard me feeding the baby goats and the dogs barked at the UPS guy. And I told her if she was going to pay for a separate building for the 2 hours of her class a week. My anthropology professor spent every class high on pot. Thank you. See, sometimes the good teachers are doing what they have to get by. I mean, I'm not trying to enable alcoholism or anything, but I'm just saying sometimes. Yeah, the farts. Popcorn farts. It's still good. And in fact, my dachshund chipped a tooth because she loved popcorn so much she found a kernel on the floor, tried to chew it, and literally broke a tooth. And we had to have the tooth extracted, but not before she got really sick. Stupid dog. So don't leave your kernels on the floor. I mean, we didn't mean to leave the kernel on the floor. It fell. Anyway, I swear I was a good doggy mom. Don't they all say that? And anthropology. See, okay. Maggie gets it. My father taught our high school shop class a drunk and never maimed himself or a student, but he did sleep with... Oh. Well, at least it wasn't the students. For a second, I thought I just slept with the students, but no, the divorce. You know what? Sometimes it's important to share a little love. It helps, like, you know, newly divorced people are feeling all rejected and stuff. So, depending on the kind of person, it can be a service. I know a bunch of people who are like, sleeping with people was just like shaking hands, and they were just trying to help make the world a little happier.
Also, we have, as we've grown up, heard way too many stories of divorced couples, even remarried ones, who still sleep with their ex-spouses. And it's like, you know, if they've already got someone else to sleep with, though, at least they're less likely to go back to the ex they went to the effort to divorce.
Like, I had no idea until I worked at the library, and I found out all sorts of things because a bunch of divorced couples meet up at the library and we're like, please stop doing it in our parking lot in your car because you do not have tinted windows. And other children are complaining. And these are adults. These are not like people even in their early 20s, y'all. This is like people in their 40s, and they're doing it in the back seat of their car in the public library. We do not have a big parking lot. This is like a little small town rural library. Do you realize the parking lot only fit 9 cars? It's like, we know what you're doing. You just don't know the weirdness. It was...
So our neighbor kid thought that he was being all secretive and was doing things with his girlfriend in the car in their front driveway until they accidentally kicked the door just right, and they both rolled out into the lawn and nobody noticed because they were really enjoying themselves. And then realized when the parents were standing around them in a semicircle doing the So I'm just saying, people don't have the best thoughts when stuff like that comes out.
People are just, you know.
Well, technically, but not 7 other cars because 2 of the cars would belong to the 2 people who were meeting.
You know, like, and this was only heterosexual couples, just to like bring this back around. No queer people did this, okay? Not in the library parking lot, y'all. It was only straight couples. Or divorce couple, whatever, something. I just, I don't like, no. I mean, we had to call the cops on one because, like, they were buck ass naked, and we're like, it's 4 p.m. We're about to have the busy time, and y'all are buck naked. And we went. Look, we made the new girl go out, knock on the window. After we first called on their cell phone, and they ignored the cell phone calls. We called on each of their cell phones since we knew whose car this was. And then we made the new girl go knock on the window and say, you have to put on clothes. We are about to have children come because, you know, at 5 p.m. all the parents show up and they go get all the picture books. And they come with their kids, so their kids pick out pictures. Yeah, we're like, you can't. We had a similar
problem at the restaurant, but they would pull up to the front of the store, log on to our Wi-Fi, and entertain themselves. And they didn't. Again, no tinted windows. Like, you look out there and you're like, oh, somebody's got their laptop out. Well, I guess they need to do an email. Oh no! Call the cops again.
That's indecent exposure. That's a lot of things that you could be arrested for.
And it was the same.
So how did you get onto the sex offender list again?
Same 3 guys. 3 of them. Same 3 people. So I ended up grabbing their MAC address and just banning their devices off of our network.
Oh, good job.
Which was really funny because one of them came in and actually asked if our Wi-Fi was down.
And we're like, no, it's working great. We're just tired of seeing your junk out in the parking lot.
Yep.
Stop being a weirdo about this stuff.
Yep.
Do that in the privacy of your home. Or download it and then go watch it at home. Not my business. You know?
Just saying, I can validate these stories. People don't take care of their junk.
Yes.
So shall we go on to the last part?
So yeah, Tom, what do you have scheduled? I know, like, what's going on?
So to me, the last one is sort of the advanced form of Headcanon, and that is shared universes.
Okay.
Also, real quick, if anyone hasn't caught up on Twitter and everywhere else, there was a recent bit of yes, of elitism and just privilege and spite. I don't know. A lot of problems about fan fiction. With this one person essentially talking about how fan fiction has made everyone's writing awful. And then there's so many professional writers chiming in with, what are you talking about? My 5 bestsellers say differently.
About fan fiction.
And then somebody else put one of her works that was a retelling of a fairy tale. It was just like, so it's okay when you do it?
Oh yeah, we got Kat really riled up about this. It's great.
So, and that's to say, and that's also why I wanted to bring up on this one, especially that a lot of these elements we have in fan fiction, professional writers take over and still use and have always used. And, shared universes is one of them. To give examples of, that I had written down as purposeful ones. Owl House, Gravity Falls, and Rick and Morty are actually all a shared universe. They were planned to be a shared universe. They did not have enough time overlap to really do a lot for the shared universe. But they were all planned. They're all friends, and they had all said, hey, we want our characters to eventually interact. So that is actually a planned shared universe.
One of my favorite authors, Allie Carter, she has actually said that even though, actually she did do a novella that actually crossed them. She's like, they all exist in the same world together.
And they have interactions.
And there are very subtle hints of like, somebody will just casually mention something that is like a major thing in one of her other books. So like, that if you've read High Society or Gallagher Girls, that, I think it's Macy and Katerina, or the main character, Kat, there's a novella where they meet. I think Macy's in it. I know the aunt's in it. But they actually have like a novella where this actually happens.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. I mean, this is another thing. I mean, as much as a lot of people don't care for it, and it put Sean Connery off ever acting again, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is very much a shared universe of taking a lot of classic stories and putting them all into the same realm together and seeing how these characters would act. None of these characters really act against type. And they're all true to themselves.
And 2 entire modern genres were born out of shared universe stories, intentional ones, be it the Lensman that gave birth to all space opera. Everything from your Star Trek to your Star Wars to all of it. If you like a show that's in a spaceship in space, it's a retelling of the Lensman stories.
Yeah.
And he created those as a shared universe that he and his friends wrote in. You also have the Cthulhu mythos, which Lovecraft and a lot of his friends, Robert Bloch, who created Psycho, he originally started writing in sharing stories with Lovecraft and actually publishing stories in there. You have, Clark Ashton Smith and a lot of those people. And that gave us all of the whole supernatural genre, the whole supernatural horror genre came out of that shared universe that they had with each other. Where we have their letters where they debated, is this creature actually appropriate for the setting or not before the stories got written? Like, it was as intentional as things come. And those are 2 extremely popular genres now.
I love the mythos and Lovecraft's universe in that it created a framing, a location sort of, where you could actually meld science and magic into one place, and they would both equally fit in just fine. Neither would negate the other, and that was so different. And we've since seen so many people use this ability to put them together and create new stories and ideas from it. I mean, that's actually part of how, I have another one I think we talked about before of, what was it? Howard the Duck, Stay Tuned, and Cabin in the Woods.
Tom's love it. Give your pitch, honey. Get it out there in the universe.
All right, I know it's awful.
Go for it.
But Howard the Duck has a demon that inhabits this, poor doctor's body, and then at the end of the movie gets ejected from the doctor after its full form is revealed and dies. I like to then think this demon, because it got used to the doctor, retained that form when it went to Earth's hell and became the main bad guy in Stay Tuned, Spike, who's played by the same actor.
The TV executive.
The TV executive. And of course, being a demon has no problem being the most evil person around. And that this is the concepts that led to, 15, 20 years later to the Cabin in the Wood situation of humans creating more TV shows and situations to entertain the old ones to stay asleep. It started with, Satan, the devil, and it went on to just be like, you know what? Let's just keep all the old ones entertained. They'll be less, uppity.
I mean, legitimate pitch. I'm like, I see nothing wrong here. This works.
It explains his character in Ferris Bueller.
Yes, it explains so much. Because, we do see in Stay Tuned, we see Spike show up in other shows. So anytime you see this actor in any movie or TV, it's Hellvision.
And another one that I thought was really fascinating, I found it recently, is because of earlier writing, Conan in Hyborian is actually the Earth 616 past. It took place on the Marvel main continuity Earth, is where Conan takes place. And they did all these comics, and it still holds up. But there's a lot of different ways to do headcanon in shared universes. Sort of the opposite, but one that I notice and I enjoy it for the actor is Karl Urban.
I love this one too.
And because
Bob entertains me at night, y'all. He's talking the whole time anyway, and he's like, "Okay, I got a new one," and I'm like, "I'm ready."
And so it's kind of like Sean Bean only exists in a story to be killed in a movie. Karl Urban seems to only exist in a movie to get punched and just messed up.
Yes.
And this has led me to believe that this is one soul that just has a lot of personal growth and self-flagellation to go through. And so it keeps reincarnating in all these people who just set out to get hit, whether it's Red or Thor.
Or Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Or was it not Doom? Judge Dredd.
Yes.
I mean, it's just...
He pretty much in every movie he's in, at least for the last, 10, 12 years at least?
Yeah.
15 years?
20.
He gets punched at least once, like a good...
No, 20, because in Hercules,
right.
as with the arrow, Cupid.
Yeah.
He did also get punched because he turned into the green monster.
Punch. And it's like, why, Carl? Why? And the answer is because every one of his characters is the same character, soul, going through all these alternate worlds to get punched. Just needs a good punch in and push him forward in his own personal growth. This is that soul. This is the reincarnation. And I am here for this headcanon.
Okay. Versus
every time I see him, it makes it better.
Versus one that Gloria came up with, or we both did. It's been a while, so I really don't remember. How Little Shop of Horrors led to Hairspray.
This is mine from way, way back. And Thomas helped me. So they both take place in Baltimore. I looked it up, and yes, they're both supposed to take place in Baltimore. So Little Shop of Horrors took place, I think, 8 to 10 years before Hairspray, the original Hairspray movie. And that's why in Hairspray, you only ever see fake plants. Because in their need to decimate all the plants, because you remember at the end of Little Shop of Horrors, in the original, before they changed the ending, in the original, the alien plants come down to devour everything. So there's a big battle. And that's why, in their need to get rid of all plant life, there's no plants in Hairspray. They're all silk and fake plants. I know, it's crazy, but it's fun.
And it would better explain why the mother never comes out, played by Divine.
Because the plants! She was younger, and she was like, no.
She was traumatized.
Look, trauma informs character motivation, y'all. This is important. But it also explains why they all keep singing. It's downtown Baltimore. They all just keep breaking out into song because it's downtown Baltimore, and that's what you do.
Actually, having been to Baltimore a lot for a period in the 90s, that was what you do.
Well, thank you for legitimizing my crazy headcanon about one of my two favorite musicals, or both my musicals.
So the hubby and I are really excited about the new Hilary Swank movie that just came out because we watched the trailer for it. And we were like, she's finally fed up and getting revenge on all the people that have beaten her up and killed her before. Like, we immediately went into this headcanon of poor Hilary Swank has suffered enough, and now it's time to dole it out. The world is not ready for the repressed anger and rage that this poor woman has had to soak up.
So the opposite end of the Carl Urban soul. She's gonna dish it all out.
Right.
We got to the point where it's like, I can't watch any more Hilary Swank movies because she always gets beaten up and dies. Every Hilary Swank movie, she gets beaten up and she dies.
Yeah, because I remember in the original Buffy movie, and I was like, really? But really? And it just gets more and more tragic as her career goes on. I just cannot handle this amount of emotional labor.
And I'm sure that's probably because it's a Hilary Swank movie. That's probably how they stop the killer at the end, and she gets beaten up and dies again. But at least she's going to get to take out a few people with her this time. The evolution is here. The anger and rage is finally here. The monster is unleashed. And I couldn't tell you what that movie's about because the headcanon is so strong now that this is Hilary Swank finally getting her revenge on the world.
I love it.
And that's why I want to see the movie.
Good reason.
She finally snapped, and it's time to take everybody down.
Kat, do you have any headcanon pitches you need to make? Are there any burning headcanons?
You
sure?
I'm prepared.
Look, I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
So many. Because I'm one of those people that I like when I find a random hole in something, and I'm just like, I'm going to fill it with so much fanned headcanon right here. There's an answer for this, okay? So I have so many.
Yeah.
I mean, Gloria yesterday was searching for just, people's headcanon, just doing Google image search for headcanon, and she found some good ones that even I'm just like, I can say a headcanon in like 3 sentences, and everyone will need to take a moment and collect themselves. Because then I'm just like, oh, that's a good one, but that's a low blow. And that is, the headcanon that after the last Harry Potter book, what was it? George dyes his hair purple, and his mom is about to come into the room, barging in, upset, and when then she sees the look on his face as he's looking at himself, and he's, responds, it kept, every time I look in the mirror, there he was staring back at me. And I couldn't take it anymore.
Or there's one.
How am I supposed to go on?
I think it's. I saw one where Ginny. No. Ginny and Harry's child, daughter, who ends up named after Fred, I think, because Fred's the one that dies. I'm like, what one does? And she actually makes herself look like she cuts her hair off, and she spikes it, and she they get her a suit and everything, and she's like him reincarnated.
Aww.
This hurt. Thanks so much. I didn't do this. Okay.
Yes.
Earlier when you were talking about like headcanons or connections in your own stuff, I know what Lavinia would have been if certain things hadn't happened to her. She would not be like, and I actually want her to realize, like, oh God, I could have been you. Like, I could have been the bad guy so easily.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then there's like what if she just did this way or did this way? It's like, I know.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I know these things? Why did I come up with these? Because
Right.
I want stories to.
I mean, it's something that I've thought about how would I be different if different important events in my life, good and bad, had happened differently. And to realize, for me, my personal realizing that a lot of the bad things that happened to me early in my childhood really shaped me into the person that I adore, that I am today. And I don't know that I would have necessarily made it here to this had I not had so many terrible, awful, no good things happen so early on, one after another, for a long time. And to realize, like, if anything, there's kind of a good thing that came out of a lot of bad things. But would the good thing have come out of other good things? And I mean, like, because I could definitely be a bitch. So, but maybe I would not have had that kind of self-awareness to adjust that as a teenager and in my 20s had I not had so many ugly things happen where I was like, I don't want to be like these terrible people. It is one of those like paths we think about. So surely characters can think about how would they have ended up, would they have been different if circumstances had been different?
Yeah, I think a lot about, like, if there is a multiverse, that there is a version of me doing this, that, and the other thing. Like, yeah, that's definitely a thought process. And I wondered why we hadn't brought up Tommy Westfall yet, and I just saw you put him in the chat.
Yep.
The ultimate headcanon to
yes.
Yes.
I mean, I literally Tom was telling me about Detective Munch.
Detective Munch.
And I had to go look it up because Tom was like, I can't remember all the shows that he shows up in it. And I'm like, I had remembered some, but this was honestly the last time I looked was before Wikipedia was really a thing. So I had to go look it up to go look at the list. Oh.
And if anybody wants to see like a wonderful breakdown of the Tommy Westfall hypothesis, a while back, the Idea Channel, the video is still up, did a remarkable, I think it was a 3-part series about the Tommy Westfall and how all that plays out.
There's literally 450 different shows and properties that have intermingled characters.
Yep.
Which leads to the possibility, since St. Elsewhere took place inside of Tommy's head, that everything else does as well, which makes Tommy the most creative character ever to exist in a story.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And an autistic character, so yes.
And Detective Munch I love because it is the person, most different shows and properties a single actor has appeared in as the same character. I mean, I just like that X-Files and Law and Order take place in the same universe, along with Arrested Development.
Yep.
So, panel question. Bram Stoker's Dracula and Van Helsing, same universe?
No, because I have a bizarre love of Dracula that precludes the thing that I don't like being in the same universe. That's my hot take. And now that I've lost everybody, bye.
Yeet. Okay. Okay. So I think we're kind of wrapping up. And I just wanted to mention that next week's episode this is the end of the first season of Getting Excited About Movies. And next week will be the second season start of Awkward Sibling Hour, where we are going to talk about autism and art. I mean, who would have thunk? but I feel like this is a good time to lead in. Of course, it's saying that. What?
Tommy Westfall much?
Yes. So it'll be Save Bat time, Save Bat channel, of course. But yeah, we're going to talk about autism and art since recently I've read several articles about, I did not know that autistic people experience various artistic mediums differently from neurotypical people. It has never occurred to me that some of y'all have a very bland life compared to my world. So I'd like to talk about it as an outreach for all the neurotypicals. It's true. Of like, wait, y'all don't experience music as a full, like life experience? Like you're surrounded by music and dance. Is that not a thing?
That's not a thing?
I thought it was a thing, but it turns out neurotypicals experience it flat. So I figured we should talk about autism and art, since apparently like neurotypicals don't experience visual arts in the same way where you feel like you could actually step in, you know, like Mary Poppins chalk art. I thought everyone experiences it and that's why it was in it, but it turns out, no, that's an autistic thing or a neurodivergent thing. So we're going to talk about how various artistic mediums are experienced differently by neurotypicals versus neurodivergent folks, since that is apparently a thing. And we're going to do our best to help the normals. Sorry. It's so strange to me that some people are experiencing a very flat world, and that they still motor on. They're brave. They're brave. I did not realize how brave neurotypicals are. So, anyhow, it's not to be pitying. I'm not trying to pity anyone. I'm just saying, like, we're going to talk about, and I'm going to try to round up some people, but if anybody would like to help me, apparently I am really terrible at recruitment on my show. So if anyone would love to help or volunteer to help me, like, contact people to join us, that would be so super great. Please, I need help.
Glory wants a producer. If anybody would like a producer credit,
I mean, contact Glory. Food and crochet right now, and maybe one day there might be money. I don't know. I don't want to, promise that. I hope. I need a producer. I've literally been praying, like, please, could you send me like a producer? Anybody? Just to like the Jungian unconscious. I've literally been praying to the Jungian unconscious to send me a producer. This is true. Like, this is like my life goal for the next 10 years. I've got to like collect producers. So anyway, not that anyone asked. Yes, the normies. It turns out they're just trudging through life. God, we've got to help them somehow. I don't know, but we're all going to get together. We're going to discuss this next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Please come and join us, and maybe together we will all brainstorm. Yeah. Yes. Art and music have been immersive to me. Why, yes. If you are enjoying my show, you might be autistic.
So I keep learning.
The CDC says that at this point they are estimating approximately 1 out of every 54 people is autistic, whether they're diagnosed or not. And so I just want to point that out. Come and join us as we try to figure out how to help the straights and normals.
No one can help the straights.
I mean, look, maybe if we help train them or like show them there's a better world where they don't have to be like objectified and stigmatized. I don't know.
And seeking outside approval. Don't forget. What would a world look like without?
Right. So we're gonna brainstorm, y'all. We got to make this world better somehow.
And don't forget, Gloria still needs, was it alpha reader or beta reader?
I need beta readers. You know what? I'll take both. I'll take alpha readers. I will take anyone who would like to just put their opinion on my Google Doc.
It's flash fiction, so it's less than 1,000 words.
Yeah, it's like it's less than 800 words actually. It's really short. So, or if you just want to literally put in the Google Doc compliments, that's also, you don't actually have to have critiques. I know some people are like, oh, I just liked it. I didn't know what to say, so I just slinked away. And I'm like, you could have put a compliment. It's so nice to get those once in a while. Have you met my family? We don't get compliments from each other. So anyhow, did I forget anything else? Oh, that was the third thing I wanted to remember was, hey, I've got a thing.
Eva says she'd like to read something short.
Okay. I'll send you the link on Discord, private link, if that's fine with you, Eva. Otherwise, I don't know how to get in contact with you. Fine.
Everybody go over to the Project Shadow YouTube
channel.
Thank
you. Yes. Does somebody have a link? I know everybody.
I do, but I want to make sure it's not the one for.
I think Kat could have a good career as a ship's voice.
Thank you. Yes, that is a lovely ship's voice.
Okay, and now my computer's like nightmare slow.
In the private chat, there's a link to the stream.
I thought I did, and then I realized it's the StreamYard link. And I love you all, but my account can't bear that. Bear a lot of.
Yeah, I also need Eva's, mailing address. But anyway, I need a bunch of y'all's mailing addresses. Everyone who comes here has one.
Speaking of which, I'm going to run because I can see Laura is already waiting in the backstage over there for me. Today, we are going to be discussing style over substance, how spectacle can ruin an otherwise good story. Join us. This should be fun and not at all like just angry. Have the fun, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
I don't know. I guess the link's not showing yet. Let me try.
I put it in the private chat.
Well, I thought somebody was putting it in the public one because everyone's got wrenches. But anyway, here it is.
I'm mostly running this on my phone, so it's really hard for me to move it over.
I put it in there, and hopefully it will actually show up.
Yeah, it's there.
Thank goodness. Yay, there's a link, y'all. Kat, would you like to do an outro?
Hi, I'm Kat. You can.
She's got a red bubble.
Except Redbubble. That is Moshi Cat. Because they won't let me change the username, and I'm not making a second one.
That's good to know, because I was thinking of setting up a Redbubble.
Yeah, you have to use the whatever username you give it.
Okay.
It's literally MOSHEKAT.
So it's Moisha.
Leave me alone. My school gave me a name complex. They cut off the last letter of my name.
You have a lovely name, names, all the things, all the kitty cats, purr, pet. It's all going to be okay. It's going to be all right.
What was that quote? Oh, is that why my dad got that book?
It's fine. It's fine.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, he's quoting you. So, Tom, do you have an outro you would like to share with us, just in case? Or would you like me to do one?
You'll probably do a better one. I mean, mostly
y'all know that Tom has a book out. It's a book on fixing your computers and maybe phones, or it will soon include phones. Down below, there is the link. Also, if you have computer or phone questions, he is available to help you. And believe me, the first 15 minutes can be made free if you said that you found out on this show. If you quote me, it's free. So, hi, I'm Glory. You're on my channel. I don't know if you know this, and congratulations on making it this far. We're super proud of you. If you've gotten this far and you haven't already, maybe you might want to subscribe or like the show, or, and if you really subscribe, perhaps you'd like to even ring the bell so you get other notifications, because that's a thing that people like to do on YouTube. I'm just throwing that out there. No one has to do this. Also, if you have, for whatever reason, you've got, oodles of money and you don't want to spend it on cocaine, may I suggest that, you throw us some money on the coffee account. So, I would like to throw this out here. I know it's controversial. We may or may not be better than cocaine. I'm just throwing this out there. It hasn't been checked by, unbiased sources, but, I'm throwing it out there. So, anyhow.
We do make better stories, though, than cocaine.
I like to think so. Just because I have unfortunately had to babysit some people on cocaine and their stories all sucked. It was very disappointing, and that's why I don't babysit people on cocaine anymore. However, people on LSD, I will babysit. Those people are wild and a lot of fun. So anyhow, thank you so much for coming. We love you all. This is the end of the first season, and it has been made amazing by you all. So we are endlessly grateful. Next season of Awkward Sibling Hour starts this upcoming Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's going to be awesome. And then the second season of Getting Excited About Movies will start, I think, let us say March. It may be April. It's probably April if I'm thinking about it. But best of luck. We will see you soon. Thank you so much for coming. Bye-bye.